Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Presently, we are here in your past, speaking to you in our future. It boggles the mind. You are turning into a special spin-off episode of the Brothers from Another Mothership podcast, BFAM Classified. This is outside our normally monthly video game podcast from four brothers from other mothers, which may or may not involve extraterrestrial life. And if you could rate the show 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice, we greatly appreciate it. I'm Quagmire, also known as the Quaggy King of the Xenobabes, and we don't have four brothers here today, but I do have Real Matt here. Real Matt, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great. Everything's fine. There's all nothing but positive news, encouraging, uplifting, just everything's great and dandy. Happy to have a nice positive chat with you tonight, Matt.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a Matt only show, and we did invite Ron and Marcus, but they were not up for the news, so it's all right. We're gonna roll just the Matts here tonight. But Matt, I gotta say, I've actually had a pretty good evening. I had a delicious personal pan pizza, not from Pizza Pizza, but from Pizza Hut. Excellent. And I
Can I
may,
ask you?
yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask? Is pizza pizza? Is that actually a catchphrase from Little Caesars? It is.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. What is the actual catchphrase? Is it like? I'm very unfamiliar with it. I
No, I
just know
think that's
pizza
all he
pizza.
says. Like, he's just like the little Caesar guy,
Really
and really the only thing he says is pizza, pizza. Yep.
interesting. So in Canada, I'm pretty confident Pizza Pizza is a Canadian pizza chain, and I'm pretty confident it's like the number one chain.
Hmm.
And I actually watched a fascinating YouTube video on it about like why it's the number one pizza chain, but it's also the number one most hated pizza chain. And it's kind of
Hmm.
like an anomaly, the fact that like people dunk on it, but yet it does so well. And listen, we were talking about this in the Discord. Some people like it. I mean, it's not hard garbage, but I've had much better pizza. It's like the crust is very tough and
Hmm.
very bland. So it literally is like cardboard, but the price it's really cheap, dude. Like
Hmm.
it's
Well, that's probably
really
why.
cheap. And yeah, but at some point you gotta be like, there's other better pizzas, like your local chains, like. But, anyways, you had a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. What kind of pizza did you get? What kind of
So I
toppings?
got Supreme because basically, like, usually, I basically have like a bachelor night. My family's out of town. I'm gonna be connecting up with them tomorrow, but usually with them, it's either cheese or pepperoni. And I'm not picky. I'll eat just about anything. But if I'm doing a pizza, it's got to be Supreme. So I got the pepperoni. I think I had like ham, pork, green peppers. Normally I do a black olive, but it didn't come with it, and I didn't feel like paying the extra money. So, yeah, I just really there's not really a topping I don't like. Pineapple, sure, whatever, throw it on there.
There's gotta be one topping you don't like. I'm trying to think of like olives. I could force myself, but I wouldn't be enjoying that pizza. But pineapples, you don't mind. That one's a hot one. I like
Yeah,
them. They're
I know
sweet.
people are like very anti pineapple, but I'm just more of like I just my wife doesn't like mushrooms, for example. I'm fine. Like they don't
Oh,
really have like a strong taste to me, but yeah, throw mushrooms on pizza, I'll eat it.
Pizza Hut's pretty legit, man. Like my family, if there's a preference, they usually like that one because of the. It's just very fluffy, soft dough. It's pretty good. It's not bad. I just find the pizza slice is a bit small, but all right. Sounds like you're winning tonight, my friend.
I am
Pizza Hut all to
winning.
yourself.
And I'm talking to you, so I'm definitely winning. But hey, you know
So
what? That's probably enough pizza talk for tonight. But we have a lot of news to get into. Are you ready to get into it?
ready. There's so much happening in the gaming industry. We couldn't help ourselves.
Yeah, we just had to come together and talk about it. So, well, Matt, this first one here, I know this is probably a big knife to your heart. Um, Sony is stopping disc production in 2028.
It is, and this it's funny. Like I remember very distinctively because the news broke yesterday, and people pinging me at so early in the morning. And in my mind, like it's Canada Day, so it's like it's a holiday. People are sleeping in. So to get pinged so much for news, I'm like, what kind of news would be breaking on Can? And anyways, obviously
The Last
Sony's
of Us
like,
Part 3.
yeah, if only. Obviously Sony's like, Canada Day, Schmanada Day. Here's your breaking news for a year and a half. Listen, the writing's on the wall. Like we saw this for a long time coming. It started off with like 70% of game purchase are digital, then 80, now we're at 90. I mean, PlayStation 5, we had digital version, disc version, Xbox, same thing. Like we knew it was coming. I think I'm just with everyone else where I just assumed that the PSX would be the last one. Just and they would just do, a disc attachment that you can buy and you can just here you go. So I was a little bit surprised by it, and in the sense that like I knew it was coming, but I just didn't know it'd be coming so soon. And I know I'm in the 10% minority, but yeah, I like my physical games. Right? It's just when I think about my childhood, playing video games when I was 5 years old, like it's a physical piece was always there, right? Going to Blockbuster, going to Microplay, renting a game, going to Toys R Us and picking up the box, flipping it at the back, reading the description, opening it up at home, the manual, just all those fun pieces. And at least for me personally, like my purchasing habits are quite tied to having a physical aspect because I like the notion that number one, I can buy from many retailers, right? I can buy from Amazon,
Sure.
Walmart, Best Buy, eBay Games. Like you can like Facebook Marketplace. Like that's how capitalism should be, right? You have many options, and I'll talk about it later in terms of like my worries about it. But just again, like my purchasing habits is heavily tied to physical because if I don't like this game or it's like kind of mid, I'll trade it in or I'll put it back in Facebook Marketplace so I'm getting some money back, and it makes me, more willing to give I wouldn't say mid games, but like games I'm not sure about a chance, right? When I wait till it's heavily discounted or it's used, then at least I know that I can always trade it in. And that's always been a big aspect of it. Just yeah, I'm 40, turning 41. I still love going into my EB games and just browsing, right? Going through the bins, looking everything. It's just something magical about that experience. And just knowing that that's going to be gone in the next couple of years eventually, it's a little bit sad. It's just yeah, it's one of those things that our kids, when they get older, it won't be a thing for them. And I mean, they won't know any difference because it's not a big deal then. But for me, it's kind of like, you can't really share that experience of renting games. Now we can't share the experience of buying games, lending games, trading games in. But I'm curious, Matt, you're a PC guy, but you've
I
had
am a
Nintendo
PC guy.
Switch. When you had you still have your Nintendo Switch. Did you were you physical, digital, or you just whatever's cheapest?
So yeah, when I was doing mostly Switch, I was mostly like probably, I don't know, 85% physical because I'm like you,
Oh,
like, yeah, um I do like physical games, and obviously now it's kind of weird, like, well, if you're a PC gamer, then like, why are you a PC gamer, right? Because there's basically no physical games anymore. But I guess with PC, I just, the option's gone. It's been gone for a while. I think Ron even
mhm.
mentioned it's like been 2 decades. Actually, for this episode, I was trying to find. I do have some physical PC games from like that are probably 20 years old, but that's kind of part of like the problem is that like now I don't know where they're at. Not that I could really play with them anyway. The PC that I'm talking to you through right now doesn't actually have a disk drive. Um, so not that I could use it now, but I kind of held on to it just because I don't know, it's kind of cool to have. Like you mentioned before, it's just like nice to like hold it, and for you, you can play it, but that is kind of like the downside, right? It's like you misplaced it, and then now, unless you do, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the house, like or it's not gone, unless my wife put it on Facebook Marketplace without telling me, and then she's in trouble. Um, but yeah, I would say vast majority of my Switch library is physical.
Okay, so yeah, I was curious because I know you're a big PC guy. I wasn't sure if you just were more preferring the digital because of the conveniences. And listen, like I am very pro physical, but sometimes I buy digital, right? Because I recognize the convenience of it, and sometimes there are decent sales for it. And especially with my Nintendo Switch and my Nintendo Switch 2, I actually do kind of find it a bit of a hassle to take the cartridge out, put the other cartridge in, and then
Yeah.
if I didn't bring the cartridge with me, like if we're traveling on a trip, it's like well, I got to pack a few games for me and then pack a few games for my son. It's just little. I mean, yes, first world problems. Not a big deal to bring a little tiny little cartridge with me, but I do recognize the convenience of having the digital purposes and. Sometimes I even double dip because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to bring the cartridge, so I'm just going to purchase it digitally. So I do recognize the conveniences of that. You can pre-download a game, like if you're super hyped for it, like we know before it launches, just little things like that. But just having the ability to know that I can trade it in, I can sell it. That's a big part of my consumer habits that I really liked with physical. And just a few months ago in May when I did that episode with friend of the show, Black Wyver, he mentioned something about doing things that are very familiar with yourself or watching reruns, like is very comforting for you and actually brings you a lot of joy. And I was like, yeah, that's why I really like rewatching Supernatural. That's why I like replaying Resident Evil a billion times. And that's kind of why I like having my physical games in my man cave. Like it reminds me of going to Blockbuster. It's like those are just such fond memories. And I'm sure most of us who are gamers have the same memories of just it's Friday night, you're going to the video game store with your parents and like you're picking out a few games and like your weekend is set, right? And it's just a bunch of video games and like popcorn and pop or whatever you bought from the video game rental store, and you come back and your whole weekend is set. And that's just something so magical about that. And just so yeah, I am hanging on to those memories that I can't really replicate. But a big piece that I want to talk about the physical aspect is if we're going all in digital, which I mean, it is what it is. Like none of us can stop it. I have very big concerns, and Quag, I'm relying on you to rein it in for me. I need you
Okay.
to tell me if I'm like off my rocker. You're paranoid. You got to take the tinfoil hats off. I'm very worried for PlayStation and eventually when Xbox, if it still exists, and Nintendo when they go the same route, that if they take away physical games and all we have is their one digital store,
Hmm.
that means there's only one place to buy stuff. And I'm not a PC guy, but Quag, for PC games, there's more than one store, right? Like there's Steam. Is it Epic? Is there's more than that, right? Or just those two,
So yes, technically there are multiple storefronts. Of course,
right?
Steam is the most popular. You got Epic, you got GOG. Really, almost every publisher has their own launcher, like Ubisoft, EA. Probably forgetting some, but yeah, there are more. I mean, I think some people would argue that Steam does have a pseudo monopoly because they probably have, I don't know, 95, 96% of the market, and the rest of those stores are trying to cling on to single digit market share. But yeah, I mean, technically there are multiple storefronts.
Right. So Steam is dominating in terms of the PC
Hmm.
landscape for gaming, but there are still other stores that you can buy from. So in theory, one would hope that it's basically. I mean, Steam is very consumer friendly in the sense that the big Steam sales, right? Games are
Yep.
reasonably priced. There's lots of discounts, but if Steam were ever to, pull a Nintendo and say we're
Yep.
never discounting our games, then one would assume that, well, Epic will come in, or like you mentioned, GOG or Fanatical can swoop in with some better deals. My worry is if physical games when they're gone and the only place we can buy is from PSN, and I'm asking this a serious question to you. I'm not being hyperbolic. What is stopping Sony from saying like, you know what? Why do I need to discount my games? Where else are you going to buy God of War Lafe at a discount? I'm being serious. Is there what is it? What is the incentive for them to give us a good discount at that point when there's nowhere else to buy the game? Is this a real concern, or am I too critical here?
No, I mean, I think you could be onto something. I mean, one thing that I'm still not 100% sure on is that like you can go on Amazon and buy like a digital copy of like a Nintendo game. I'm not sure about like Sony
Oh,
PlayStation. And then same thing, like actually, Steam, you can buy a Steam key outside of Steam. So like there's like these like third party sites that there's some that are not legitimate, but a lot of them are legitimate. So like Green Man Gaming, Fanatical, Game Billet. But anyway, the one that made me think of it was they had a crazy deal on Amazon for a Steam key of God of War Ragnarok for like $24, and like
okay.
I picked it up and I thought it was a good sale like earlier this year, like I think around Father's Day for like 35. But I mean, um, you know, I don't know if you can like today buy a PlayStation 5 digital copy on Amazon. Like in addition
Asking the
to
wrong
like the
person.
physical, I'm not sure. Yeah, so but I have seen like Nintendo. You can buy a digital copy of Nintendo games like on Amazon, but at the same time, like to your point, like if Sony or Nintendo could decide not to do that too, right? It's like, well, maybe you can buy it digitally today through Amazon or Walmart or wherever, but then like, well, in the future it's got to only be through the eShop. And yeah, of course, like it's to their advantage that they could just say like, well, if you want it, you got to come to us. And just typically when you have less competition, like you're alluding to, you have less reason to put stuff on sale, right? So no, I mean, we're not necessarily there yet, I don't think, but it's definitely a
No,
possibility, and I could see. I could share your concern with that. Yeah.
That's years away. Obviously, it's not like they're going to hard stop like January 2028. January 1st, they're going to start doing that. But I worry about eventually. Will we? Is that the route that we're going in? I was mentioning in the Discord a little bit. There literally is no competition for Sony. There's literally nobody keeping them in check. Like we've talked about this at length, with Ron and Marcus, and like Xbox is like I don't like saying this, but Xbox is dead. Like they they are not here to stay in competition. They are not keeping PlayStation in check. Nintendo's in their own lane, charging us $100 for Xenoblade Chronicles One. Like PlayStation, in my opinion, can just do what they want. And like, what is incentivizing them to do consumer friendly practices? Because I can't play God of War Lafayette anywhere else. And if it's digital only, I can only buy it. I can only play it with you. If I can only play it from you, I have to buy it from PSN. And you're not gonna discount it. Well, SOL, Matt. Then I guess you're not playing the game. Like, am I? Is that not like this is the situation that we're in? And I'm not blaming Sony for winning, right? Like, they're their business. They're here to succeed. They're here to crush the marketplace, and they fumbled this generation. Somehow, Xbox blundered even more, and now we're in the situation where they can almost do. They can basically set the trends for the marketplace in some aspects. So yes, this news wasn't a surprise. It is still upsetting to see. And listen, like I'm fully aware that like, you know, in PS4 generation, I remember they came out to say like, hey, the game is on the disc, you can play offline. As the PS4 generation went on and on, it's like, well, you need a day one update. Well, there's only 80 megabytes on this disc. And same thing with PS5. They're like, oh, it's on the disc. It's like, is it really? It's like, well, 30 megabytes are on the disc. You got to download the rest. This was coming, but again, it's still upsetting the fact again, just the other reasons that I mentioned. But it is what it is. Like I'm not saying that like I'm done with PlayStation never again, but it it does. I wouldn't say it's not a cause for concern, but like it does make me. It's less. It's one less reason for me to jump into a PS6 right away. In addition to the upcoming prices, like and we'll get to that later. There's so much news to talk about, but there's just I can pump the brakes. I got my backlog. I can wait. Just with all these little things, it's such a downer quag. I don't know what to do, man.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of why I feel like all these little sales, or I see these bundles where I can get a couple games for, $3 or $4. Is that, yeah, I'm not really feeling that great about like how the future of any of these new consoles, or obviously even just like PC hardware in general. I feel like I'm just kind of hunkering down, and I'll play my backlog until I die type thing. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy right now.
We're all thinking the
Um,
same thing, dude.
Well, let's keep the Sony train rolling. Um, Here pretty soon, or I guess basically a year from now, PS3 and PS Vita digital stores going down. So now my understanding is that if you've already bought the game, you'll still be able to download it. You just can't buy any more PS3, PS Vita games July of next year.
This one's really fine, quag. Like we've had like five. I can't remember the exact date when they announced it the first time, and the internet got upset and they backed off. I
Hmm.
think we had like 5 years. Like if you really, really wanted to buy a game on your PS3, PS Vita, and you haven't bought it within like 4 or 5 years, like that's on you, broski. Like, come on,
Yeah.
it doesn't take that long. Listen. I remember very distinctively years ago when they first announced it. I made my list and I hopped on and I bought all the games I wanted right away. Parasite Eve 1 and 2, Silent. I just bought them all right away. So if you weren't able to do that within 4 to 5 years, come on. And why would Sony keep the PlayStation 3 and PS Vita store up and running? Like it costs them money. Like we're past the PS4, we're nearing the end of the PS5, we're almost at PS6. Like who actually expected them to keep the PS3 digital store open and PS Vita? Like it doesn't make any sense from a business perspective. And just I think it was something about how they handle transactions, like you said, Quack. Like even though the store closes, you can still go on there and download whatever you purchase. I think it was the money transaction piece. I'm not a tech person by any means, but yeah, I remember when they backed away from it. They were like, okay, you can still buy games, but you have to load actual money into your PS wallet from your from your PlayStation app or a PS4. It's a bit of it's like 5 steps. It's a little annoying, but clearly there was something with the security issues in terms of like how they handle money in the PS3 store. So listen, it's to me it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It was interesting that they dropped it at the same time. Like right, like I was just kind of like, oh, it's kind of odd, but quite like you're not a PlayStation guy in the sense that like you had a PS3. Like this is like no impact on you whatsoever. I'm assuming, right?
No, but I mean, like, I think it was Ryu brought up in Discord. Like, there are certain games that basically now you can't get legally. Like, I think he brought up Xenogears as an example, and I'm interested in Xenogears, not to the point of going out to buy, an old PlayStation and then like either a disc or yeah, I guess get it on the PS3 store. But still kind of sad that, kind of like going back to the disc production, it's just making it more difficult for any type of game preservation. And, you're basically going to have, no legal way to obtain, certain games, and Xenogears just being one of them. I just remember him making that comment. So, but you're right. I mean, um, we've had a long time coming, in terms of like notice. It's not like they said like, hey, we're turning it off tomorrow type thing, and you don't have your chance to buy what you want. But yeah, still sad, but yeah, to your point, not unexpected. Yeah, they can't keep it going for a third decade, right? So
Oh my gosh, when you put it that way, like yeah, that's like it costs them money. We know this. And listen, like you said, game preservation wise, yes, that's obviously a big concern with digital games, because if they turn it off or licenses and the game's gone, then the game's gone. But listen, right? If we can't get it this way, there's other ways to get it. Just like what RGT85 said. If buying games digitally means you actually own it, then piracy isn't stealing. Just saying.
I like it.
But yeah, I'm not surprised by this.
All right. Well, why don't we give Sony a break? So, kind of still in the same vein, and I'm actually very interested in this. Not that I have a lot of Xbox discs to test it with, but apparently Xbox is testing disc to digital, basically trying to like convert your physical library into a digital one. So, Matt, like, I know you don't have an Xbox anymore, but is this something that you're kind of hoping Sony can do as well to help you with your bringing your library forward, or are you kind of not interested in making your physical library a digital one?
I think this is very fascinating on two levels. Number one, the fact that Microsoft actually cares so much about game preservation and backwards compatibility, just because I'd have to look for it. It'd take me a really long time to find this receipt, but I think somebody did it because I think it was before the Series X and S came out, before PS5 came out. There's just a lot of talk about like how important is backwards compatibility, just because when we went from PS3 to PS4, you couldn't play those games. So going from PS4 to PS5, they're like, oh, Sony has to, do backwards compatibility. So is Xbox such a big deal? They made such a big mistake. And I think, people did some research in terms of like doing like polls and surveys and asking people like, if there's no backwards compatibility, would you not buy this console? And it was like a fraction of people were like, yeah, I'm not buying it then if I can't bring my old games. Because it's like, yeah, it'd be nice to bring my old games, right? At the same time, it's like, well, I can just keep my old console and just play it if I really wanted to. So yes, it's very convenient. Listen, I love the fact that I can play my PS4 games on my PS5. It's great. But if they didn't, I still have my OG PS4. I have two PS3s. Like I was ready in case it
Okay.
doesn't work out. So the fact that Microsoft is like, this is important, cool. I'm not saying it's not. Like that's great because we're gonna assume that Project Helix will be all digital. Like I mean, Game Pass has been around for how long? That's a digital service. Like it. And if anything, I'm a little surprised that Xbox wasn't coming out to announce it's all digital console in terms of like no more discs. Maybe Microsoft's like, you know what? We're getting a little too much heat. Let's save this one for later, and then maybe Herman's like, oh, well, we'll take some heat off for you and do them a favor. But yeah, I find it fascinating that they're willing to uh, make it a priority. And then at the same time, what I wanted to say is like, this is fascinating for two reasons. Because is this not a waste of time for Microsoft and money to be looking into this? Like, is this? again, not being hyperbolic, is you're telling me that if Project Helix comes out, and it's like $1,500 as we're anticipating. And listen, we'll get to the Xbox news later about everything. But do they really think it's going to move the needle significantly after like, hey, it's an all digital console, but we got you, okay? Because we can turn your discs into digital games. Is this is this worth their time and money, Quag? I'm a physical guy, and even I'm like, why are you bothering with this?
So, I mean, I think it's definitely a good PR move, but I think you're right in terms of the volume of customers that would probably would care about that, or probably even have the library. Because you got to think like, we're podcasting
That's
on the
right.
internet about video games. We're like, one or like a tenth of the 1%, right? But then you have people that they play Call of Duty, they play Madden, they play 2K. That's about it. And honestly, they probably wouldn't even understand what this whole thing would be, and unless they're really curious about like carrying over their 20 years of Madden that they've been playing. But I kind of doubt it, because I think a lot of those players really, once the new one comes out, they kind of almost like forget or trade in the old one, right? So yeah, I mean, again, like I'd be curious like how much time and investment it is, if it's just a couple interns working on the side, or if it's really their dedicated teams doing it. But yeah, I think if they get this going, like I don't think it's going to shift the tide, back in Xbox's favor. But there's again, maybe I'm optimistic. Like I don't think Xbox is dead. I know you mentioned that before, and they might be dying, but I guess I'm holding on the hope that they don't, because yeah, Sony and Nintendo doing whatever they do by themselves, and even Steam. I mean, I'm a big Steam guy, but lately I've been kind of wondering, like, are they getting a little unchecked too? We just have a lot of people. It doesn't seem like we have a lot of competition right now, really, wherever you look. So.
Well, hey man, according to the next news that we're talking about, Xbox might not be dead now, but they're on the way. Tell us, what's the next news article?
Yeah, so this one actually might be funny with the timing of when this podcast gets posted, because I think
Oh
this
yeah.
will kind of become more reality. So we're gonna kind of see
Oh
what
man.
happens. But yeah, as of right now, as of recording, yes, there are some rumors of some studio closures at Xbox. Got Ninja Theory, possibly Compulsion Games, Double Fine. No, today, as of recording, Thursday, July 2nd, Obsidian was put on there, but then taken off.
Yeah.
So that one actually kind of blew my mind, which I'm hoping that it's definitely
Same.
not true, but especially with Asha just coming out recently saying they want more Fallout, and I would argue that Obsidian made the best Fallout game. Uh,
Exactly.
and so, I'm of two minds with the layoffs. I mean, I don't want anyone to lose their job, and I actually just recently played Hellblade 1 this year. I really enjoyed my time with it. I have not played 2 yet. Have not played really any of Compulsion's games. It's not like, against that studio. It's just honestly, there's just too many games, and maybe that's a whole other topic we could talk about. And Double Fine, I don't think I've played anything of theirs recently. I did play Stacking on the 360. It was fine, but none of these games or studios, I'm sorry, have had like probably what you would consider that like critical hit in terms of like this game sold 5 million copies, and I know Game Pass makes that more difficult to really measure, but um I kind of think we're at the point, and obviously Xbox is seeing this too. There's too many games. Clearly, they have too many studios that they can't manage all these. Now, you could argue that if you had trouble managing all these studios, you shouldn't have bought $70 billion worth of a game publisher type thing. But of course, that's hindsight 2020. But I think I just hate all that, because you know Xbox has had so much growth, and now possibly contraction with what they're kind of holding. And it's kind of just proving, wasn't it the, oh gosh, which commission was it that was basically suing them? The FTC, Federal Trade Commission, yeah,
Yeah.
that basically saying that this is going to cause a lot of job losses. They're like, of course it won't, and then again, we'll see on Monday, but kind of looks like it's going to. So it's just but again, I just hate for anyone to lose their jobs, and if these studios really are closed, especially like Double Fine. I mean, they've been around for 2, 3 decades. So again, I think there's a possibility that some of these go independent, but that's going to be an uphill battle too. So um, yeah, that's kind of where I land with some of that. How about you, real Matt?
And I'm not an Xbox guy. I did dabble in it a little bit just because the Game Pass deal was just so enticing. So I did pick up a Series S, had it for about a year, and then realized like I literally I like exactly what you said, Quag. I literally there's just too many games, and I
Too many
literally
games.
don't have the time. Like I just found myself spreading myself too thin between all three consoles. So I ended up prioritizing Nintendo and PlayStation, and then I was like, what? The Series S just collecting dust. Just let me, try to get back some money that I bought or that I used for it. But not being an Xbox guy, I'm just seeing things as somebody who's not really in that ecosystem. I did like Phil Spencer. I do believe that he genuinely, number one, is a gamer. Number two, I do genuinely believe that he believed in Xbox. Number three, he genuinely wanted to do what was best and was just trying something new to bring back Xbox. And I think at that time for the Xbox One, listen, Netflix was taking off, right?
Hmm.
So it wasn't a foolish thing for him to say like, let's try Netflix for us and see what happens. And listen, that was and into even to some extent is still a great deal, not as much as it was before. But back then, like, dude, that was a crazy deal. Like, I remember if you that there's that Xbox Game Pass trick where, like, I think if you buy like normal and then you cancel it and then you upgrade to like premium for like $1 and then you extend it for a year, it works out to be like $70 a year or something like that. And like, you're getting like day one, like Xbox exclusives. Like the price of the games are $100 now, Craig. Like for $70 a year, and I have access to all those things plus the backlog catalog plus the indie games. Like that was a wild deal. So yeah, all of us did sign up for it. And at that time, Phil Spencer was like, "Ah, look, I got 30 million subscribers." He hit a ceiling, right? There's not more than I don't even know how many subs. I'm sure there's less than 30 million, but eventually he hit a ceiling. It's like, well, what do we do now? And I think at that point, I'm not a business person, but they probably realized like, well, we either backtrack, which proves that we failed with the subscription model, but at the same time, this model is not generating revenue, and we're a business. We need to make money. It's not working. Or, I guess, which is what he ended up doing, was like, let's double down and add even more games to the subscription in hopes of boosting, subscription numbers. And on paper, it's like, yeah, if I get friggin' Call of Duty, right, and like Bethesda, then yes, I should see like an exponential increase in Game Pass subscriptions. And it didn't work out that way. It did not move the needle that was required for this to make business sense. And then $70 billion, a couple of billion here. So, when they took everything in, Activision and all these other studios bolstering their Game Pass library, like they put themselves in a pickle. And as much as I liked Phil, he did have to go. And now I'm not saying that I'm a big Asher Sharma fan. I'm actually quite fascinated watching this as again somebody who has no skin in the Xbox game, just to see her come in, you know, say all the right things we want to hear. We're bringing back down the price of Game Pass. We're doubling down, and then watching all this horrible news in terms of like game studios closing. She's extra silent now on social media. It's fascinating to watch as she has like this impossible task, in my opinion, of correcting the ship. And what I'm trying to say is it's unfortunate that now it's these talented studios. They're not AAA, right? They did not. It's true. They did not put out bangers that said like, "Hey, I need to get an Xbox," or "I need to sign up for Game Pass if I haven't already." Like it didn't. They didn't produce games that move the needle enough. And from a business perspective, yes, you can't justify having them. But at the same time, Quag, a few weeks ago, Ron and I did an episode on E3, not E3. And for both of
Yes,
us, we really enjoyed the Xbox showcase. Ron has an Xbox. I don't. Even from my point of view, I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to. A little FOMO that I can't, play Gears of War E-Day, right? Fable,
I
and
can tell you how it is.
right? Like yeah. But now, okay, thanks a lot. Just yeah, I'll just experience it through you, I guess. Yeah, same thing. Just might as well watch a walkthrough. Like to hear that Ninja Theory when they highlighted their new
Yeah.
Hellblade game, it's just so sleazy. Am I being too harsh? Like it just feels disgusting that they would have their big Xbox showcase, highlight this game, everyone's talking about it in a positive limelight, and then a few days later it's like, well, that studio might close, so I don't know. Like, what was the point? Just to boost PR? Like, this just feels like a slap in the face to
Yeah, I
Ninja
think they
Theory and the fans.
came out and said that they were, wanting to showcase it. So, if there's a potential buyer in the future, at least they know what they'd be getting. But yeah, not a good look.
Sleazy. That's
Yeah,
just straight up like as a not, I mean, maybe from a business perspective it makes sense, but and this is me who I don't have an Xbox. I don't care that much. Even on the outside, I'm like, yo, this is gross. Like I feel like it's very disrespectful. That's the word. It's very disrespectful that you because as somebody who loves video games, like Summer Games Fest, E3, like that's our big highlight for the year. And then, maybe the Game Awards, but that's it. Right. And so when people are coming in with the State of Play, the Nintendo Direct, Xbox Showcase, like you're bringing in your heavy hitters to get me hyped for the next 6 to 12 months of your ecosystem. That's what it's supposed to be for. It's not meant to be to advertise to other, you know, investment companies to buy these studios off of you. That's not what it was meant for. It was meant for us. But is disheartening, Quag, and just again to hear that all these other companies, and even on I know you're not on social media, Quag, but like
I'm
seeing some of
not.
the social media reactions and from the companies, this is sad, man, because it seemed like some of them were genuinely shocked themselves, or again, like you said, like their livelihoods are now on the stake. And with the way the economy's going, Quag, do you actually expect an investment company to pick up these studios? Are they actually doing that in 2026?
I mean, like I said,
Serious
I
question.
liked I liked Hellblade, but yeah, if I, had the money to buy them, like thinking what I could sell Hellblade 3 for, I probably wouldn't.
It's like we'll get into it later, but just like the gaming industry is cooked. Like we're in a lot of trouble here. Like
Too
I
many
could not
games.
just too many games. It costs so much money. I cannot passively foresee any reputable investment company saying like, even though games are so expensive, it's oversaturated. Let me spend 20-30 million dollars on this studio and hoping that this one game that's not done yet. We still have to spend a little more money. Is going to get me a return, not just a return on my investment, but a profit. Like who in their right mind is going to buy it? I mean, listen, I like to be wrong sometimes. I actually do. Despite popular belief, I like being proven wrong. Like I would love to be proven wrong, and that yes, somebody will buy these things and they'll continue on. Great. I really don't see it. I'd be shocked, and at the same time, like quite you're Asher Sharma. You're in charge of Xbox, right? You got the spreadsheets, you got the numbers. What did she say? Like profits like 1% or something like that, or you got this, and you got Satya Nadella saying like, hey, this is a business. It's not a charity. Would you be axing these studios, or is there a creative solution that we just haven't seen yet?
So, I mean, I think part of the problem and also why I feel bad for some of these studios is like they were kind of told to make these kind of unique, charming games and Xbox was kind of saying like they don't need to sell crazy numbers because they're going to go on Game Pass and we're just going to get engagement from it. And now they're kind of changing the metrics like, well, now we're trying to get them on PlayStation and now they're not selling on PlayStation. Like, again, I haven't played it yet. I do look forward to playing it, but I think Hellblade 2 like just kind of did not do very well on PlayStation either. Um, but if they are really kind of trying to focus more on these profitable, games, um, you got to cut the areas that aren't right, and I think that's part of the downside of like picking up something as big as Activision Blizzard is like if you're really just kind of focusing on like Call of Duty World of Warcraft's in there, and it's still doing really well for a 20-year-old game. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Hmm.
And then, not talked about very much, but Candy Crush is still even doing, a ton of money too. So like, you know, it's just kind of typical business is you do try to cut your expenses, and if you're not making money on certain things, you want to do less of that and be able to do more of where you are making money, which is probably going to be more Call of Duty, um, and Candy Crush rather than Hellblade or, um, South of Midnight 2, or whatever Double Fine's got cooking, unfortunately.
This it'll be very, very fascinating to see the gaming industry in the next few years, as you're mentioning. Just like they're going to be financially for business perspective, for business reasons, they'll have to cut back on these unique experiences that aren't moving the needle and getting sales, and doubling down on their Call of Duties and their Fallouts or whatever they think are their big exclusives. Anticipating if this is the route that we're going, that there's just going to be this massive gap in gaming where it's just these massive AAA games that are guaranteed bangers. Or not, I mean, they might not be the best in quality, but they're guaranteed to at least sell in terms of
Hmm.
being, reliable IP. Remakes, that's definitely my fault for always
Yeah.
buying them. Like, and then there's not going to be these unique experiences. And then I would hope to see, the indie space kind of fill in that void where, listen, like, it's just a team of 10. Like, we're not answering to investors. So now we can fill this void because there are people who like these games, right? The people on Game Pass, enjoy these experiences. They're not saying that they're masterpieces and you need to pick up an Xbox for it, but they liked it enough. And I am curious to see how it fills this void. And like you said, they obviously have to change their business model. And if Xbox is really going to survive, Game Pass literally will look. It will have to change significantly to actually make financial sense. And whether that's like, and listen, they might get a lot of slack for this, but it might actually mean like, hey, Xbox AAA exclusives, they're not day one on Game Pass. Like we need to sell it, all right? And there might be a lot of slack for it. Maybe that's why maybe they're opening it up to on PC, but they clearly putting it onto Game Pass is hurting their bottom line. And I'm not saying I want Game Pass to go away. Like I said, as a consumer, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I know from a financial perspective, and it doesn't work. So I'm curious to see what they're gonna do. Like I mean, Helix probably won't come out for like a year and a half and 2 years. So I'd say within that time frame, like Asher's gonna have to come out and say like Game Pass is now this price or these tiers, and yeah, like Call of Duty's out. Other AAA day one won't be their day one. Maybe it'll be like 6 months or a year or whatever. Like should have to you know see what actually works for them financially. But it's just fascinating to see because I think a lot of us knew that Game Pass was always too good to be true. But we're like, hey, it's great. Like, I'm paying $70 for all these games. Like, who cares? And Microsoft can eat the cost. And you know what, Quag? They probably were able to eat the cost for quite a bit of time. But like you said, that $70 billion purchase, caught someone's attention. Be like, we're spending 70 billion alone just on this. Like, what am I getting back in this? And like I said, it's like 1% profit. It's like, well, not really helping us financially. So like, I mean, aren't there like rumors of Xbox being like becoming a subsidiary or even being sold off to another company? Was that a rumor?
Yeah, and actually, that was something I was thinking about bringing up too. Is that I kind of feel like that's what needs to happen because really the way Microsoft operates and how Xbox operates, like they can't be any different. For example, like I think it's been floating around that like Microsoft has invested like $80 billion in AI, and I can't remember if that's multiple years or whatever. But you could argue that the reason why Xbox is like struggled to create more consoles is because of the whole AI thing, right? It's why
Oh my gosh.
Sony's increased their prices. Nintendo's about to increase their prices. Like, my graphics card that I have in this computer here is like if I wanted to buy it now, it's probably like double. Like, it's just you know they're not like compatible in terms of like whatever one tries to do, it's going to actually hurt the other. So I've heard that they're floating that idea, but I would argue that I think for Xbox to be successful, I think it can't be a part of Microsoft just because I don't think they're as compatible as they thought they would be.
Hey, maybe just hear me out. And again,
Okay.
you can pull off my tinfoil hat anytime.
Okay.
Maybe Asha. I mean, obviously she's CEO of Xbox, but she obviously
Yep.
has someone she has a boss to answer to. Maybe she was directed to, hey, you need to trim the fat of Xbox and make this look as appealing as possible you possibly can, so that when someone does want to buy, there's a good, you know, purchasing tantalizing reasons for it, right? So maybe by trimming the fat, downsizing, laying off, increasing prices in certain areas. I'm just saying, maybe the whole game plan wasn't to actually save Xbox for Microsoft, but maybe it was to save Xbox so that somebody else can pick them up. Because again, I don't know who in their right mind is going to come in and say, like, yeah, let me inherit your $70 billion of debt. And but hey, that's why it's Ash's job to say, like, well, you're gonna make money from Call of Duty from these in-game purchases, and we're gonna bring it back exclusives, with Gears of War E-Day, even though we had it ready to print it for PlayStation 5 disc. I'm just saying, if that's the case, wow, like, didn't see that one coming. But hey, I mean, that's just how life goes. I mean, let's go back 25 years and you said like Sega's out of the game. I'd be like, you're out of your mind. You see how what the Genesis did in that generation, but you never know. So I'm quite curious. A lot of changes are coming, my friend. It's scary but fascinating at the same time.
Yeah, and kind of on the nature of Game Pass, you know, another rumor, which actually I'm kind of hoping it does happen because I think it's the only way you're really gonna save Game Pass. But they're actually looking on cutting like third party, kind of funding. Which it kind of reminds me of like Netflix. Like if you remember back when Netflix started, it was basically all third party stuff, right? Like actually, that's where
Hmm.
you would watch The Office because Peacock wasn't a thing, right? But over time, Netflix figured out it's like, well, if we actually make our own stuff, it's actually cheaper or can be cheaper if you manage it right, to produce your own stuff, and you're not basically paying a premium to get these like third party stuff. So, um, you know, again, like may not happen, but honestly, I would say it's probably something that does need to happen, especially if Osh is already looking on trying to cut overhead. Another way of doing that too is actually cutting checks that you're putting out the door to probably like Epic Games, for example, because I'm still not understanding. I still don't understand why they added was it Fortnite? Oh gosh, what was it? Premium or something. Oh,
I
it
can't
wasn't it
remember.
wasn't the battle pass. But God, so yeah, it's been a minute since I played Fortnite. I've already forgotten what they offered, but like you're basically trying to like get people to sign up for Game Pass to play a game that you could play for free, like outside. Just I don't know. Never made sense to me. So cutting stuff like that, and obviously other non Xbox stuff would help bring the costs down. And then you could probably even afford to even have like maybe a cheaper tier, to be able to like just because you won't have as many expenses going out the door, right? So, something else has been floating around too on some more like Game Pass changes like that.
Listen, I'm not a fan of it, but financially, like if it's not sustainable, it's not sustainable. So if you got to
Yeah,
cut out third party support, like you said, stop cutting these checks to all these, third party developers just to bring it to Game Pass. And again, if you're not, it's not justifying those Game Pass subscription services to revenue, then you got to cut them off. But like you said, Quag, then that means it's up to Xbox to find different ways to incentivize, and either by bringing down the price a different way, or maybe we're going further back in the back catalog of third party games. They're older games, so they're here, but especially in terms of like newer ones, like, well, yeah, not gonna be paying them like $10 million or whatever. That's probably too much. But you're not gonna pay like whatever X amount is if we're not gonna get it back. And yeah, I'm very curious to see what Game Pass is gonna look like, because like I said, I think it's going to look very very different. And as you mentioned, like Netflix even realized like this isn't sustainable. We need to, cut this stuff out, and then we need to make our own stuff. And listen, Netflix did it, right? Netflix is still dominating. So
yeah,
it's people doubted that. It's like, well, Office isn't there, and like Marvel stuff isn't there, and DC, like they cut off all this stuff, but I don't know if it's the king of subscriptions. It probably is.
I think it
Otherwise,
still
like
is,
it,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they have obviously found a way to pivot and still keep people in. And listen, I don't like this, but I'm just saying Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, they obviously got to the point where it's like, hey, this doesn't make financial sense for us to charge you $8 and I'm paying millions of dollars, to NBC for The Office. So in addition to cutting out that fat, they've all introduced ad tiers. And I'm not saying that I want this. I'm not saying like this is the only way to do it. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if one of the lowest tiers of Game Pass has some sort of ad feature because
It's
I,
coming.
I it's coming, right? See, I because I have to look it up again. I don't have the receipt with me, but if I'm recalling correctly, I think Netflix and a few other subscription services have said that their lowest tier, the one that's the cheapest, and that's like $10 with the ads, actually generates more profitability for them versus their
Mm,
highest tier of like $25, no ads. And isn't that something? Isn't that fascinating? So it's they've actually kind of shown like actually these subscription services actually would prefer the ad tiers versus giving you like the premium ones.
we're going
And
back to cable, where you got to pay for it and then you get ads anyway. Full
here
circle.
we are in full circle, man. Like, hey, listen, as somebody who consumes YouTube like on an unhealthy amount, I wouldn't be surprised if the free version of YouTube that's bombarded with ads probably generates Google way more money than me paying. I don't know, like I think my friend, like I share with my friend, I think it's like $7 a month or something. You're telling me that their ads don't generate more than $7 a month? Like there's no way. So Quag, like I said, I don't think we're gonna see AAA games day one, Xbox exclusive on Game Pass. We're thinking third parties might be slowly taken away. We might see some ad tiers, and this all sounds so gross and like disgusting, and like getting shivers thinking about it. But this is like, I would say I'm going to root and applaud Xbox for trying anything they can to survive. Right? Some of these business decisions I don't like, but at the same time, like you mentioned, like they were told to make games like this, right? Phil said like, don't worry about making money. Like they were put into this pickle, and if there's it's either like, okay, well let's just give up and we can literally be dead, or we gotta try something to survive. And we might lose some people in the meantime, but if this can keep us going for the next generation, maybe two or whatever, then hey, you gotta crack some eggs to make an omelet, but it's not great, but there I don't think there's an alternative. It's Game Pass is gonna look different. I do believe that.
Yeah, and again, I don't like this either, but whether it be Game Pass or something very similar, I think that is going to be the future of gaming, like where you basically will subscribe to a service and that's how you get your
Oh,
games.
and that's the only
Um,
way. Oh my God,
I
that's
mean, it may not be the only
it's
way, but
possible.
think of it now like Netflix, right? I mean, you can go get your Blu-rays and everything, but they're pretty hard to find. Like, if you try to walk into your Best Buy, they don't really have the 4K or Blu-rays anymore. Like, basically buying them online, and um, you know, it's just much easier, much more accessible to either buy it digitally or just stream it through like Netflix or somewhere else. So, I'm not saying it's going to
Oh,
happen next year, but I think it's going to look a lot different in the next 10, 20 years for sure.
oh my gosh.
I
All right,
know.
what's the next good news to share, Quag?
Well, actually, this is one that I've been really looking forward to because
Do tell.
I like to, I'm very modest, and I of course like to remind everyone that Quag was right. So Grand Theft Auto 8 is $80 USD. However, if you actually want the entire game, it's $100, which is what I've been saying. So $100 Grand Theft Auto 6.
As much as so yeah, for my Canadian brain, I think it's $110 standard and then like 130 Ultimate Edition. And listen, like I said, like we're cooked in terms of the prices for games, but at the same time, if Rockstar maintains their pedigree for the quality of games that they make, which I highly expect that they will. This is where I'll say, like, okay, this is legit worth $110. If I'm going back to the experience I had with Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, all the other GT games I played, like Red Dead 1, like they're all bangers. And number two, like their open world mechanics are, I mean, they set the bar, right? Like we have all
Yeah.
these open world clones after them. And I'm not saying that we're going to get necessarily something that's like a generational game, but maybe we will. If there's anybody that can, it is in fact Rockstar. I'm not buying this day one just because I'm like, that's expensive. I can wait. I got a
Now, question.
backlog. Please.
Question. Sorry to interrupt you. So, is it the fact because it's digital only why you're not day one, or even if there was a physical, you still would not be day one?
Even if it's a physical, I'm
Okay,
not day one.
got it.
I love Rockstar. I really do. I love GTA 5. I love GTA Vice City. I love Red Dead 2. I like them quite a bit. San Andreas. I got a backlog. I can wait, and I know that Grand Theft Auto eventually goes on sale, right? Like I posted in the Discord in a blue sky. I bought the PS5 version of GTA 5 with a disc, and it was like under $20. So I can
I
wait. Is
figured you
what I'm
already
saying.
had it. So, did you not have the PS5 version?
PS5 version, I did it. I
Oh,
had the
okay.
PS3 version, and I'm like, okay, I like my PS3, but if you're telling me I can play a PS5 version with better frames, better loading, why not? So that's why
I
I did
gotcha.
upgrade. But yeah, even though I'm not personally buying it day one, but to me, it's like I can actually justify saying, this it actually is worth $110. Like I
Yeah,
think the rumors was like that they spent $400 million. I'm not saying that just because a studio spends an exorbitant amount of money, that means you get to charge more. Because I mean, you can spend all this money, the game could be total trash.
right.
But I I am expecting this game to be absolutely phenomenal. Every experience I've had with GTA games, funny satire, great social commentary, fun missions, great story, banger, soundtracks. I'm expecting this to be a 10 out of 10. So a game that's going to be so open and vast, $110 is fine. I don't like it when Nintendo says Fire Emblem is $110. I'm not knocking Fire Emblem, but you're telling me that a Fire Emblem game is at the same pedigree as Grand Theft Auto 6? That's what Nintendo's saying. Is it really? That's where I'm like, guys, we need to show some humility here in terms of like, game pricing. I mean, yes, Nintendo got away with it with Mario Kart World. That was well overpriced, and now they're doing it again with Fire Emblem. So, anyways, Nintendo, no, those games are not worth $110. Grand Theft Auto 6, I would say yes. So, Quag, I'm assuming, have you? I'm not a PC guy. Is it coming out on PC day one? Have they announced that
No,
yet? No. So you were unable to pre-order it then.
I'm unable to pre-order. But I will say, because I think I've had people ask me, it's like, would you buy Grand Theft Auto 6 for $100? So I think, well, actually, the part where I struggle with, okay, so I agree with you. Like, I think I would have no problem paying $100 for Grand Theft Auto 6, if it was available on Steam for me to buy it. What I don't like is I don't like this whole like $80 version, and then that doesn't include certain like stuff that's been like pretty traditional because like they're basically talking about like, going to these shops to get clothes or taking your car to the shop to like, mod it out and everything. And all this stuff has been included up to this point. Um, I think I'd rather them come out and just have the balls to say like, "Hey, this is $100 game," because it kind of does rub me a little bit the wrong way, where you can like, well, you can get the game for 80, but it doesn't have a lot of the stuff that you'd expect like from the previous entries, and then paying extra for that. So, um, outside of that, I don't have trouble spending $100 on Grand Theft Auto 6 if that's kind of how they came out and did it without doing this kind of gross, cutting out content type thing.
That they can get away with it, Quag.
Yeah, and
It's
they will. And trust me,
Yep.
like I'm not saying that anyone that's boycotting it, you're not going to get anywhere with that. This game, I think they've already like said this game like made $1 billion in like the first hour or something crazy. So
Isn't
have
that
pre-orders.
is what Quag? That is I'm very very fascinated in terms of like curious to see what the sales are going to be like to generate that much in pre-orders without PC, just on PlayStation 5, Xbox. I'm assuming this is people who have pre-ordered who don't even have a PS5 or Xbox yet. Probably that's what I would assume, and they just got it.
That would
Or
be interesting. But yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised, man. Like this, it's quite an exciting event. We will see, and like yeah, I'm expecting to be 10 out of 10. I'm expecting to be generational game, and but yeah, I mean they're Rockstar. That's where they can get away with $100 Ultimate Edition, even though that's the actual full game. We just cut out stuff to make $80. That's why we put a stupid digital code in your empty plastic box, and you're still gonna buy it. Like I said, I actually I wouldn't like it, but I'd still end up buying it, digitally probably. But just yeah, I got the backlog. I can wait and try not to let FOMO get to the best of me. But yeah, we knew it's happening, and I am very curious just to see how many other AAA games are going to follow suit, not just from first party, Sony games or Xbox or third parties. I'm very curious to see if they're going to say like, hey, we're worth it too. Because wasn't it Obsidian? What was that game that they did? They came out with like,
Oh, Outer Worlds 2.
yeah, and then they had to backtrack when they got the backlash.
Hmm.
So now that we've kind of, set the set the bar here with GTA 6, and apparently Nintendo set the bar with the friggin' Mario Kart World and Fire Emblem. Are more games going to follow suit? I am very, very curious, and I am curious to see how the player base reacts. Right, just because our wallets are shrinking and tightening up. Like as some of
Yeah.
us really have to be like more cognizant of how much we're spending. Might be pumping the brakes. So I am curious, and it's just fascinating because Hollow Knight Silksong, they could have charged like what? Like I'd say they could have charged $70, and nobody would bat an eye, right? For a game of that pedigree, for the amount of content, and it reviewed very well. But it came out cheap, right, Quag? Like as an indie game, I
20
think
USD. Yep.
$20,
Hmm.
20
Yep.
for a game of that caliber. Like that's not a small game. It's not like 5 hours. Like there's a high quality, decent length, and even there, like $20 is suffice. So it's obviously I'm curious to see if more people are going to lean. Maybe indie games are following in this direction of like, no, let's just price it reasonably, consumer friendly, or it's like, hey, GTA 6, we're GTA 6 too. Here's $110 and you'll buy it, or when it goes on sale for $90, you'll be happy. That's where we're at.
Yeah. In terms of like kind of like what games might be next, I mean, if last year's Call of Duty wasn't as poorly received as it was, I would kind of expect Call of Duty to be the next $80 game.
Mm-hmm.
Could easily see, Madden, college football, 2K, like basketball. I think any of those games, because again, like a lot of those people that buy those games, those are like the only games that they really even buy. So if they're spending, $80 now instead of 70, it's not a big deal compared to like, more of like those one percenters that are buying like 10, 20 games a year type thing. It's just like, just means you don't go to Starbucks that week, right? Um, so yeah, I think we'll definitely see more. I mean, kind of going back to Outer Worlds 2, again, hindsight being 2020, but that was a very interesting game to put at $80. Again, no offense, I do have it on my backlog to play the first one, but like, it's definitely like a smaller game, right? You think you'd want to do something like, again, Mario Kart, like the, highest selling game on Switch One. Of course, that would
Of
be
course they
Nintendo's
would.
$80 game, right? So, um, I think we will see more of it. But you're right. Like, I am kind of wondering if we're going to get to a point where, gamers, consumers do push back because, yeah, like, the economy is not great and um, we have just less money than ever to spend on games, right, as a collective. So, well, surely if game prices going up, surely the consoles won't be, right? They're gonna subsidize the
Of
consoles so
course,
they can sell more expensive games.
of course.
So I will say some of this is Greek to me, Matt. So you may have to translate for me. But Xbox is raising price on hardware by roughly 150 Canadian, which I feel like from my trip that might be like what, $20 US.
Maybe even less. Maybe even less.
So then we got on the 512 gigabyte model, 210 Canadian on the 1 terabyte. Um, yeah, and then the Series S, like, isn't this crazy that the Series S is even more expensive than like a Switch 2 now? Um,
That's that is wild. Yeah,
yeah,
I wrote down the notes just like some price, just to reference it. Like a Series X went from 730 to 940. Series S went from 450 to $600 Canadian. Like, I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know why. I mean, it's not Xbox greed, but I did that this to the show. And you added this show notes, but I added more detail just because. And again, we'll talk about when we talk about the Steam machine. But I don't want to be, sounding the alarm, but like friends, like we're cooked here. Like if you're telling me it's $940 for a console that came out in 2020, that like there's that we're looking at like what 1700 $1,700 Canadian for the next Xbox console ish, if unless it's really that high end one, then we're looking at 2 grand. And then like what that means, I'm just eyeballing it. Then PS5's got to be like 1,500 before tax, and this is like if it came out now. Like I'm I'm assuming the ramp crisis isn't over in 2027, and right? Didn't they
Not looking that
say?
way.
Didn't they say for Xbox, when they talked about justifying it, which I mean they didn't have to. Like no, none of us are out here saying like you guys are so greedy. Like we're all aware of what's happening, but they did just came out to say like one of the parts is 2 times the price, and we expected to double by like the fall. I'm like, good God, this this is
It's
dark
crazy.
times, Quag. This is dark times, and yeah, we'll lump it in together. Steam Machine came out with the pricing. I listed in Canadian. The 2 terabyte one with the controller is two grand. It's over 2 grand here in Canada before taxes. Shuhei came out, did his thing, and said like this is like a PS4. Like I can't justify these prices. And to be and listen, he's being funny, but to Valve's you know benefit of the doubt, like they weren't expecting this to happen when they were developing this thing, right? Like they were not coming out and say like let's make a device as powerful as PS4. Let's charge $2,000. This just like, SOL, right? Like this is where they're at. But I'm and again, you can tell me if I'm just being very dramatic, which I usually am. I'm quite genuinely concerned for gaming as a hobby, not just for myself, but for us as a community. We're pricing people out. Like this, literally, in my opinion,
Yeah.
this is a massive gate that will keep players out for ever or for a long time. Like I'm not seeing a scenario where it's like magically we've produced all this RAM and the prices dramatically go back down. Like that's not how the world works. Like I can see these prices staying this high or going a bit higher, and then we're basically not we, but just the market has just said like $2,000 just to get in, or pay for gas that costs an arm and a leg, and your groceries, or find another hobby that's going to be cheaper. You're not a console guy and you're a PC guy, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. For me personally, if these are the new prices, Quag, and you're looking to tell me like PS6 is like $1,500, right? The Nintendo Switch 3 is going to be, $800 or $900 by then, whatever it is. I'm not saying I'll never buy it, but I can tell you I'm not buying it day one. And I would have to wait a very long time for the price to come down at, well, I mean, EB Games now might exist by then, but I'd have to wait for the price to come down at Facebook Marketplace because I personally can't justify that, and that's the upfront cost, right? And then what am I putting in my PowerPoint to my wife? I need $2,000 just to get in, and then I need $110 plus tax for each game to continue on, and then subscription services. Like this isn't a casual hobby. Like gaming's always been expensive, but like to me, this is and again, depending on how much money you make, this to me, this is like we're getting to that level of like this is a high end golf club that's exclusive for very wealthy people, or you can just play virtual golf on your own in your backyard or whatever. 'Cause that's what it. I'm very genuinely concerned that it's going in this way. And you're a PC guy. You've built a good PC. Does this impact you? Like, are PC players the winners in this? Where you guys are fine because you've already built your PCs, and you can make this stretch as long as we can. But it's console gamers that are cooked, or is it all of us?
I think it's probably all of us. I mean, I think I've mentioned before that with the timing of when I built my computer, I think I'll be okay till like 2030, 2031. But then what happens then? I mean, hopefully maybe prices are more reasonable then, or, who knows? Maybe this is the new normal. And trying to remember, I think this computer here was about $2,300. And that was like when prices were good. Like I purposely like I had the money at the time and I did want to buy like the highest end PC that I had before because usually I always did like a mid range.
Mhm.
but also, the idea of it's like it's an investment, right? Like, if I build it better, then it'll last longer. At least that's what you
It'll
hope,
last you
right?
longer. Yep.
But is that going to be like 5 grand in 2030? Like if
Oh
I want to
my
build, I don't
god.
know. I mean, again, what they typically say is prices go up like a rocket and they drop like a feather. So I mean, like hopefully at some point
I don't
things
like
will
the.
come down, but it is kind of nerve wracking, and again, it is kind of why I feel like I just kind of stockpile these games while I can. That if I'm not if it is 4 to 5 grand for a new computer in 2030, well, I still got I think when I when I opened up Steam earlier, I've played some of them, so I don't know how many I've completed, but I do own 470 games on Steam.
Good. So you're
So
fine.
if
You're
I
you're
just stick
you're.
with that, and then not
Yep.
to mention all the free games I've gotten from Tim Sweeney on Epic Game Store, and then all the free games I've gotten from Prime Gaming on like GOG, and actually I learned today there's an Amazon Games app, and I have like 112 games through Amazon Games. So if I just stick with what I got, then who knows? Maybe I'll be okay.
So let me ask you this, my friend. So if it's because I don't think you're the only person that shares that sentiment. I think a lot of us are saying, okay, we got our backlogs. If PS6 comes out at this price, if RAM can cost as much for PC gaming, I'm just gonna hang on to my old stuff and play my backlog. Because like you said, you got 400 games, people have 100 games. I can play Resident Evil like 100,000 times. We've all
Yeah, you're
got
set.
Plan
You got
Bs.
Resident Evil.
We're set. So I'm very curious because from what I'm seeing in the news, it sounds like we're staying the course. Like PS6 is coming out 2027, 2028. X,
Yeah,
Xbox Series, same the course. And I've watched a lot of videos about the reasons why they have to stay the course because they've already signed contracts with manufacturers of like we're going to build this console, we're going to sell it, and if we don't
yep.
sell it, then they're eating the money for that, right? So I get it. But the way, like, if I'm not buying it, you're hanging onto your PC stuff, and a lot of us are, not a lot of us, but at least the majority of us are saying, like, you know what, we're fine. I mean, listen, I'm fully aware that the Steam machine sold out. I'm not sure how many were made to pre-order. Like, we'll see. Let's see if they share some numbers. But if a lot of us are saying, like, no, I really can't afford this new console. I'm going to play my backlog, or if they're smart enough and they release cross generational games, I will play those. But I'm not buying this new hardware. Is is that enough to force these companies to say, like, you know what, we have to eat the cost significantly? Or, and I don't have a solution for this. Like, I'm not a CEO of PlayStation or Nintendo. Is there a creative solution that they actually need to come up with then, where it's okay, we we don't need more powerful consoles that are costing $2,000 to our consumers. Maybe we need to make something that's more innovative. Or I don't know, Quack. Like,
The
is
Nintendo
this?
model.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying to do
Yeah,
it that way, but is this the right business approach to say, like, well, we've already got these contracts. Here's your slightly more powerful, I mean, significantly more powerful console, but the returns are diminishing, and a lot of our consumers literally cannot afford this, so they're not buying it, and then they're not going to buy as many games. Does this make for the financial sense for them? Are they going to stay the course? I'm just curious to see what they were doing. Like, I know there's that rumored PlayStation handheld, which would be, if you're telling me that PlayStation 6 home console is like $1,900 and the handheld model is like 1,100, I'd feel better purchasing that handheld model,
sure.
right? Even though like, I like playing handheld, but I'm just, yeah, I'm just very curious to see what's going to happen. Like, cause I don't think at these prices they'll be able to move the numbers that PlayStation's used to seeing from PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4. Like, there's just no way. Or am I wrong, Quag? Are people gonna, max their credit cards and be like, yeah, I need to play, the next Madden game? I don't know. Like, are they gonna figure? Are they gonna just? They'll still be successful? Will they really?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like, is Sony and Microsoft going to like back off on power? Probably too late for PlayStation
Too
6 and
late.
Helix. I think too
Yeah.
much of that design is probably down the road type thing.
Yeah.
Kind of what I think of like, I didn't buy a 3DS, but apparently at 3DS at launch didn't sell very well, and Nintendo basically kind of said, "Oops, like we'll drop the price with that." I mean, there's a possibility of that, right? So, most console makers, they do typically sell them at a loss with the idea that they're gonna make their money back on their games. And if PlayStation 6 and Helix comes out and no one buys it, and they're not making enough money, with the games that they're either still selling on PlayStation 5 or Game Pass, still isn't making the money they need to, then they may have no choice but to lower the price, so they can sell those new PlayStation 6 and Helix games. But um, again, probably not a good example because again, like we don't know the quantity and stuff, but I think it was about a month or so ago, Steam Decks came back into stock
That they did.
at like
And
$300 more. So like, I think I bought mine for like 649, and it's like almost $1,000, like almost what a Steam machine is, right? And they sold
Mhm.
out. Now, did they sell a million? Did they sell 15? That I don't know, but like they sold out, and part of me kind of wonders that, yeah, PlayStation 6 comes out at $1,000 and Helix comes out at 1,500, and they're selling out anyway. I don't know, like it does seem like we haven't hit that ceiling yet for what people are willing to buy. Again, it may not be um, it might be more of those luxury buyers, right? Or maybe, people aren't making the best decisions and they are maxing out credit cards to get the console. But also, you got to think too, like, there's a lot of people that's still playing Fortnite on their PS4. Like, there's people that, I'm not buying the PlayStation 5, I'm not buying the Series X, for whatever reason, like, they don't do enough to, make it worth the investment. Or, you know what? PlayStation 4 works just fine.
I'm very curious, right? Like, are people gonna stay on their PS4? Are they gonna stay on their PS5 and not hop over? And then I'm thinking, as a third party developer, you're looking at these numbers and saying like, why would I make, and even maybe even first from a first party lens, am I really gonna make a game exclusive to the PS6 and Xbox Helix when people are hunkering down on their PS5s? Or am I gonna say like, hey man, like this game cost me 300 million to make. We need to make profit, so we're gonna make it cross generational. Are Sony and Microsoft in positions to be like, no, no, like you need to make it, we believe in console generations. Like, are they going to do that, or are they? This basically is like a catch-22, right? Basically, if they're saying like, no, you have to make it console exclusive, it's like, well, we're not going to make money, so then we're effed. Or, well, here's cross-generational, but now you're kind of reinforcing to the player base, like, yeah, you don't need to buy a PS6 because still plays just great on your PS5. Like, yeah, it's 60 frames versus, I don't know, 90, or like, 4K instead of, I don't know, 6K, whatever it is. Like, yeah, I'm very curious to see what's gonna end up happening. And like, it's just it's just very fascinating because, thinking about PS5, PS4, PS3, we got into like very familiar, uh not routines, but in terms of like habits, in terms of what we see how the console generations come about. I mean, we've seen some blunders and a few tweaks here and there, but I think the next one we're coming into with PS6 and Project Helix, it's gonna be very fascinating to see because they will have to do things differently in order to thrive as a business. And I'm not sure what to expect. And yeah, I'm just watching it unfold, and I'm hoping that's not just all exploding and imploding, as our favorite hobbies just cave in on themselves, and that somehow developers and artists still get to thrive in the gaming industry. But yeah, it's gonna be different, man. It's wild times for sure.
Very wild, yeah. In terms of your question, if they're going to do cross generational or not, that's probably the $1 million question, or at this point, $1 billion question, because it's going to be a big gamble, really, either way.
Hmm. For sure.
All right. Well, that was some fun news. We actually do have some community questions that I'd like to go through. Does that sound good to you, Matt?
Let's bring our friends in and see what their
All
thoughts are.
all right. All right, so first one here got John 32. I think we kind of alluded to this earlier, but after 3 weeks, are you still ranking the Xbox and PlayStation showcases with the same grades? And real Matt, if you don't mind, I'm going to go first. So yes, mine do have the same grades because I didn't grade them the first time.
I was gonna ask you, like, so what are your grades then? Now that you had this opportunity to be in the future, okay, what are your grades for them?
Yeah, I mean, I never watched them, so I was unable to grade them. Sorry,
No grade, got it.
no grade. Yeah, not graded.
Quag. Um, am I still ranked? I mean, for PlayStation, and you might accuse me of being a Sony pony. It's unimpacted, even though they are taking away my precious physical games that I like to, hang on to and stare at. Showcase was still a banger, right? Um, as previously mentioned, the Xbox One, yeah, it's just a sour taste in my mouth, Quag. Like it really is. Like it's very, and again, I'm not an Xbox guy, but even I was like, yeah, this was a great Xbox showcase. Came out with some swings, some a bit odd choices with like these games are exclusive, but all in all, like I enjoyed that showcase. And now, hearing about which studios are on the chopping block and the fact that, as you mentioned, Quag, the showcase was really meant to advertise for investors. We actually didn't care about pumping out these games for the player base. It's about, can we cut our losses? So unfortunately, now knowing those, motives were behind it, or yeah, the grade does go down. As bad as Nintendo for me, I haven't. No, Nintendo's still the worst in terms of that direct. But this Xbox, yeah, that did leave us very sour taste. And listen, if you're an Xbox person, let us know. Like, how are you feeling? I'm very curious because again, I'm so removed from it, but even I'm bothered by what happened.
Yeah, that's fair. And if I was a professional podcaster, I would have listened back to get the exact grades that you had given each one of them and seeing if you would have given me the new grades to match with it, but I forgot to do that, so apologies.
All
All
good.
right. Thank you, John32, for that question. Next one we got from Antics. How does it feel to see the grave starting to be dug for the physical gaming industry? Is this what it felt like back when Blockbuster died? Also, which is worse for the physical game collector? Switch to keycards or PlayStation digital only games being the future?
I don't know. Antics. Do I want to be slapped in the face or punched in the stomach? Good question. Both sound like horrible options. Is this what it felt like back in the day when Blockbuster died? It's funny because I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Quite like when it did die at that time, it's like whatever. Like, I can still get my games and movies from somewhere else. Netflix is on the rise. I can go to Walmart. It's not a big deal. And it's only as I'm much older now, perhaps it's nostalgia glasses, but I think it's the experience, right? Like, yeah, like I still have access to great movies. I still have access to great games, but just like I said, it's like a core memory for me. Like, it's Friday night, school's done, dad's home from work. Hey, me, the whole family, all four of us, mom, dad, me and my brother, let's make it a blockbuster night. Right? That's such a sweet thing. And we'd go pick up three movies, pick up three games. Dad, can we get some popcorn, please? Sure. And like that's the whole weekend. And like I was so happy, dude. Like I'm not exaggerating, but just that, again, just that experience of going into the store, going on a Friday night and just being like, hey, let's see what new movies are out, or hey, that movie was sold out last time. Let's see if it's available now. Or same thing with the games. Just that experience of just browsing and just picking different things, right? Like, well, I want this movie. My brother wants something else. We want a different video game. My mom wants to watch this movie. Just that experience is gone, right? And is it more convenient to be on the couch and I load up my Netflix app and I just browse with my wife what to watch and with my son? Of course, it's more convenient, but it's not that magical experience of the anticipation of going to the blockbuster and then seeing what's available. That was sad for me. Am I an old man, Quag? Did you have these experiences as well? You
Oh
did, right?
yeah, my favorite Blockbuster memory is basically I viewed it as the first Game Pass. So they had like a summer deal for like 21.99, unlimited video game rentals.
Whoa.
I probably am the reason why Blockbuster doesn't exist before. They lost money on me big time. I don't know exactly how many games I got, rented that summer, but there were times like where I would go multiple times a day. This was
Oh
back
my
this
gosh.
was actually back when I was like an achievement whore, and I actually rented, I think it was Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you're familiar with that game, you can get the 1,000 gamer score in about 20 minutes.
What
Did the
about
same
it?
thing with King Kong. I think there was another one. I think one of the early Maddens was pretty easy to get to. So, yeah, I was at Blockbuster quite a bit that summer, exchanging all those games.
Yeah, listen, we're blockbuster kids, and unfortunately, our children won't be. To answer your question, which is worse, the all digital future or the key cards? Okay, I'm just gonna talk this out because I really don't know the answer. So I'm
Okay,
talking this out
I do.
loud, Quag. All right. All right, you go first since I don't know. I can't make up my mind.
Okay.
Which one's worse?
So you kind of alluded to it earlier, kind of the downside of like being a physical game, person, especially with like Switch or I'm assuming PlayStation's the same, is you do have to switch out those cartridges, or I'm assuming the same thing. You have to swap out your disc, even though you have it installed. I think the PlayStation disc acts like a key to be able to play it. So I think in that regards, I think the key cards are worse. I get that you can trade them in type thing, but I guess I'm thinking long time down the road where that basically just becomes like a souvenir, and the servers are shut down and not able to actually access it anymore. But my vote is I think the key cards are worse.
I would have to agree with you, my friend. I think the key cards are worse. Yes, the benefit is you could trade it in, you could sell it later, lend it to a friend. Yes, but like you said, long-term wise, if we're looking at potential consequences of digital, if they shut down the server, this key card is useless, right?
Yeah,
And then the other con, like I said, especially for Switch, because I play handheld so often, first world problem, but it is a pain in the butt to take it in and out, right? Versus where it's digital, all the games are on the Switch, done, bam. But in terms of like the key cards, I got to bring a bunch of them when I go on vacation. This seems kind of stupid. So while I get this was Nintendo's half step, in some ways this is just really stupid, and we might as well just call all digital or Nintendo stop being Nintendo and just make cartridges at different sizes so that people are not buying these stupid key cards. So there you go, antics. I'd rather get punched in the stomach than getting slapped in the face because a slap in the face is humiliating.
yeah. Um, and honestly, like Switch 2 game keycards are part of the reason I don't have a Switch 2.
Oh
No
yeah,
thank you.
did
Yeah,
it bother you that much?
they do. Well, and see, that was the thing like I was talking about my Switch 1 collection earlier, is that I liked physical because I didn't want to have to buy an SD card because a lot of times that would
Right.
be like a game, right? So like if I buy a
Yeah.
physical, then I can technically buy like one more game because I'm not wasting money on storage. Now, granted, eventually I did buy an SD card for when we met at Extra Life to download a bunch of free to play games that we never ended up playing. So in hindsight, I could have gone through the whole generation of owning a Switch without needing an SD card. So, oh well. All right. Well, thank you, Antics, for that question. We got Savoy Prime, the bear, Royal Baroness himself. Hello, brothers. With all the meltdowns over Sony pulling the plug over something that has been foreshadowed for years, do you think the PlayStation 6 will have an optional disk drive? It's been rumored that the PlayStation 6 will support PlayStation 4/5 games. What do you
You're
think,
you're
Sony
you're
Pony?
you're more into hardware than I am. Are
Okay.
are 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 disk drives are they proprietary in terms of like a PS5 disk drive is very different from the disk drive from the PS4, and that's very different from the one in the PS3. Or are all disk drives really the same in that sense? Read the disk, data goes into the console. How does this work?
I would think. I mean, there might be something there that would prevent like a Series X game from playing in a PlayStation 5,
Oh,
but
okay.
I
Fair.
think it's a Blu-ray drive for the most
Okay.
part. I mean, I could be
So
wrong, but
if it's that simple, like you said, I can't pop in my Xbox game into PlayStation. I don't know who would do that in their right mind. Someone who's
someone
looking out
try
for
it. If
some.
you own both, report back. Leave a comment.
Can you imagine this whole time? It's like, hey, could have played my Xbox games with my PS5 this whole time. If only we knew. In this case, if it's that simple, then I can see PlayStation saying like, "Hey, we got all these disk drives we made for the PS5 Pro. Here's a tweaked version. Slap it as an optional add-on to your all digital PS6. It's easy. We upcharge it. We make money from it. Everyone's happy. People are cheering us for backwards compatibility. if we're wrong, because again, we're not hardware guys, and a disk drive specifically for the PS6 is a lot of time and a lot of money into developing it, I can see Sony saying like, no, who cares about who cares about the 10% of you that have a physical media library? You don't need it. And if you want it, buy the games again digitally. So
That was gonna be my
for,
prediction, Matt. Yep, that's what I think's gonna happen. Because you
yeah,
you mentioned at the top of the show that Sony doesn't feel like they have much competition, so and they're trying to make more money. So
I like I said, they want to make more money, and I'm pretty sure their stats that said like, we'll whine about it on the internet, but I'm not gonna buy a PS6 just because I can't play my disc-based games, even though I probably still have my PS5 or PS4. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's such a small fraction of the potential players that would be like, oh, I'm out, I'm out. So, okay, I guess 600 people aren't buying a PS6 no more. Oopsies, right? But again, if it's cost efficient, like it's literally just very similar to the disk drive they've already made, and it's like, okay, here, and just upcharge it. I can see us throw them a bone, but if it costs them time and money, it's not going to be worth it to appease such a small fraction of the player base that number one has their physical games, and number two is really adamant that their newest console can play these disc-based games, and I'm going to be playing them, or else I'm not going to, like, you know what I mean? Like we're going like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction
yeah,
of like of the consumer base. So I'd like to be wrong. I'd be very happy to be wrong on this, but I expect that they'll be like, no, you don't need it. Too bad. So sad.
yeah, and not to mention that probably that subset of the audience is probably like hardcore enough to bite their tongue and buy the digital version anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, Ron, I left off part of your question or comment, but have a great show, fellas. Quag passed Nagachaka box of tissues for me. Told you Team Physical was on borrowed time, so
Joke's on you, Ron. I don't need no tissues because I have my ranch rag.
oh god.
That's what they're for. What else would they be for? Exactly. Joke's on you, sir.
Well played. Thanks, Sharon. Appreciate the question.
Love you, dude.
Sam Dan's couch. Do you think people understand the ramifications of losing physical media? Example, the fact that you could lose access to your library permanently if you ever got your account banned by Sony.
I think most of us do realize that, like, that it's not when digital stuff. I mean, movies, music, anything. It's just granting you access to it. And yes, anytime technically they can reach into your PlayStation or whatever, and they can take it back out. There was news a week or two ago that they removed 500 movies or TV shows from people that bought it digitally. So yes, I think people are aware. I think listen, here's what I'll say. I think for 90% of the player base, they said, I don't really care. It's worth the risk because the conveniences of digital ownership, it outweighs the potential consequences. Like, and this is a potential one. And obviously, I'm not saying it happens all the time. I'm not saying it never happens. But the majority of people are like, no, it doesn't move the needle enough for me. Me personally, as you can see, being a hoarder, preparing for the inevitable moment where it's like, oh, I can't play games anymore. I'm just gonna go into my physical backlog. Yes, I do actually worry about that, but I know I'm in the minority. There's everyone else is like, it's fine. I'm not hanging on to games from 1998. But is this an issue for you, Mr. All Digital PC? Are you worried that what's his name, Gabe's gonna reach into your computer and yank the games out?
Yeah, I mean that I feel like that comes up like every few years is like, what happens when Valve shuts down for whatever reason, like, I don't know, maybe my 470 games are just going to be gone. Like yeah. Um Probably not something I think about too often because it makes me very sad, right? But um you know, I still am team physical. Like I said, if I had the option, like where I could have a shelf behind me full of PC games, I think I would. I think it's mostly just how what what Sony is now doing, what PC gaming did like 20 years ago. That if I want to play games on my computer, it's gonna be digital, right? But team physical does have its downsides too, right? So, um, I think I've mentioned before, my two oldest daughters, they have Switch Lights, and my oldest daughter wanted to play Kirby, like Return to Dreamland, I think. And she had it for a while. Wasn't a game that I was really playing anymore, so never really thought much about it. But I just kind of went through my game cases not too long ago, and I noticed that the game case was, or the game was not in the game case. I was like,
Oh,
okay, well, let me check with her, and just wanted to make sure she still has it. I don't know where it's at. So
oh,
she has
brutal.
a little game case with the Switch that has like 8 spots to kind of hold your game when you're not playing them, but I have no idea where it's at. So now I have a game case for Kirby Return to Dreamland, but no game.
Brutal. Brutal. But
So
pros and cons of both, like you said.
pros and cons of both. But yeah, Sam Dan's couch. You're right. It's definitely can be concerning. So appreciate the question. Next question here from Jazzy. BFAM Mats. Hey, that's us. Why do you think it is that people hate on digital media via PlayStation and Nintendo, but give Steam a pass for the exact same thing? I know several people who are team physical, but they still have quite the robust Steam library. I feel seen. For real, Matt, now that PlayStation is getting rid of disc, will you still buy physical copies for the box arts for your shelf? I personally stopped caring about physical media when manufacturers stopped caring to add guidebooks and posters and other little goodies to their boxes.
So just hopefully nobody assumed this about at least me or our other physical media people. I can only speak for myself. I don't actually hate digital media. Like I like to be dramatic. Okay, I like to poo poo on it all
Don't
the
we
time.
all?
Exactly. It's the internet. We love being dramatic. Thank you. I feel seen. Um, I have digital media, right? Like I buy, like I said, I'm surprisingly I actually buy a lot of games on Switch too again because the convenience factor. PSN pops up. I'm like, this is a digital game. It's cheap. I'm gonna buy it, and especially indie games. I actually don't hate it. I just like having the option, right, of being able to buy physically, so I can trade these games in, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying to abolish digital stuff, right? Like there's pros and cons to both. Happy to have it alongside. I just like having more options. In terms of why people are getting so upset from Nintendo and Sony versus Steam. I can only assume it's just because PC games went digital so long ago. Like it's been like two decades. People got over it, right? We had other stuff to move on from. Whereas PS6, this was like yesterday when we found out, right? And Nintendo hasn't officially done it yet, but they got the game key card. So it's just gonna take time for us to get used to. And I also do believe too as well, like just with console gaming, just that traditional model of like playing on your couch in front of your TV. You're just associating that physical part to it. But that being said, 90% is like, oh, pre downloading, it's good to go. So in terms of the second question, am I going to be buying empty boxes? Jazz at that point, no. Like, I'm actually very curious to see if that is something Sony will continue to do because I know with GTA 6, there's a physical, it's at Walmart, it's on Amazon, there's a code in there. I'm curious to see when Sony's like, hey, stop making physical games for us in 2028. Are the companies gonna say like, well, can we at least do code in the box, right? So that we can pump it out to Best Buy and Walmart's so that grandma can buy it for their kids during Christmas break. I'm curious. Maybe
You'd
Sony's
have
like,
to because you can't gift games on PlayStation, right?
you cannot, right? And
Wow.
so maybe Sony will be like, well, we do want gift purchasing, especially for Christmas and Valentine's Day and birthdays and stuff like that. Maybe they'll still do it. I'm curious. Maybe they'll just be like, no, this is stupid. Because I mean, they still have to produce, the case, the artwork, that little piece of paper. I'm being facetious here, but I'm sure it's still logistical efforts to,
Yeah.
make it, deliver it, et cetera, et cetera. Am I personally going to do it at that point? No. Like, my heart's not in there. Like, I just can't. I'm just gonna if at that point, if I can afford a PS6 eventually at some point, or Nintendo Switch 3 whenever I am able to, or if these new games are on PS5, which works out for me, No, I'm not gonna buy an empty box, dude. Like, come on. Well, hey, people want to power to you. Like, you see something. I think for me, just the idea it's like I know nothing's in there, just kind of hurts more. So I can't. That's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, I get it. I don't think I'm buying empty boxes either. But Jazzy, going back to your first part of your question, I see your point. I don't know if I necessarily say it's a pass. I think what the problem is there for a while, consoles and PC were very different, but really up until the most recent, like trying to remember if it was with PS4, but definitely with PS5 and definitely with Series X, is that really these consoles are actually becoming very similar to just computers, right?
Yep.
And really one of those differentiating aspects to Series X and PlayStation compared to like PC is that you did have an option for physical, but now it looks like pretty soon you can either do PC and do digital, or you can do console and do digital. So it's just kind of one of those things that where there was a benefit before that you had the option to do physical with consoles. Now it looks like it's just going to be the same as PC. So then that's where a lot of people are thinking it's like, well, why don't I just go to PC if I'm going to be digital anyway? So that's kind of the way I look at it.
There you go.
Thank you, Jazzy, for those questions. We got Drellish. We're going to do some time traveling here. So, Folia, maybe we'll join you. It's 2030. Sony killed physical games years ago, and that Resident Evil 4 disc in Nagachaga's hand is now worth more than the console it plays on. Maybe that's how you get a PS6. Are we all secretly sitting on a retirement fund, or will our future collectors be trading discs in dark alleys like it's a drug deal? Psst, I got a sealed copy of Resident Evil 1. What do you have? I like that question,
Michael,
Drellish.
it's a very good question. Michael, if retro, I'm into retro gaming, right? I got my GameCube collection. I dabble a little bit in like with 3DS games, and if retro games are at the prices they're at now, then the answer is yes. In the future, um, these relics of a PS5 discs, I do expect that they will be worth a bit more. I'm not saying every single game, but there'll be a few gems. Like for example, like when I go to my retro game store, like there is a massive wall of PS3 games. Infamous 1 and 2, great games, like $4. Okay. But a game like Puppeteer, which is quite rare, it's probably like $200, man. And even I think Dragon Guard 3, I think that one's quite costly too. So I think in the future, like obviously, if it's a game that's been mass produced, like for example, um, GTA 5 on PlayStation 5 will probably be worth $2, in the future, even though it's a banger of a game. But if there's, games that are produced at a limited run or whatever, just those ones that they didn't produce as many copies, then I expect that they probably will be worth quite a bit just because listen, I'd be shocked if the cycle breaks, but the way I'm seeing it is like, you know, people play the games in their youth, they have nostalgia for it, they grow up, and then eventually they toss those games away. Then as they get older, they want something to go back to that's familiar, brings them back all the feels, and they want it back. That's why, dude, 3DS has like exploded. Like a 3DS XL is like $400 on Facebook Marketplace for a mint condition one. 3DS games are like, 50, $60, even though you can just emulate all of them so easily. But from my understanding, it's because Gen Z grew up on a 3DS, traded it
Mm.
all in. Now they're in their 20s, no jobs, can't afford housing. It's like, well, at least let me get back my 3DS. And that's why the prices have skyrocketed. So, whoever, and this just sounds so weird to say, whoever is growing up on a PS5 console, like that's your first console, then yeah, you might want to, you probably want to rebuild your collection in the next 10, 15 years when you're in your 20s, perhaps. And again, it'll be case by case for a game. Like I said, some games will be $3, some games will probably be like 100. But listen, hey, I don't know if you're being facetious, Michael, with your sealed copy of RE1. I'm very upset because last year, when I was hanging out with friends of the show, John 32 And Daryl, I always look at retro games. I think I saw like not sealed obviously, but like I saw copies of Resident Evil 1 for like 130. And I was like, oh, that's too much. Forget it. No, thank you. Number one, I can't even find it on eBay.
Hmm.
Like, as in, like, there's not many copies. And number two, the only copies I can find, they're like $200-300. So
Oh
it has
no.
it has spiked quite significantly. And I should have, bit the bullet before. So now I'm in a pickle because when I go to Fan Expo, if I find a copy, I might just jump on it because I want to finish that collection. But yeah, we all have hidden relics. And Quag, you said you could have some old games hidden somewhere.
No.
No,
Well,
no.
okay, yeah. I guess those I do, but I feel like those I would never get rid of. I don't know. Diablo 2, probably like one of the pivotal games for me, and SWAT 4. I think I do still have my original World of Warcraft disc. I think those are the three PC games I have. But yeah, the reason I was shaking my head no is that really, like, none of my console games, like I traded in everything, like my Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Xbox 360, all of it, is traded in. I do not have it anymore. And not that I'm rushing to get rid of my Switch 1 collection, but just going off history is that I just don't know if I'm going to be patient enough to be able to like get it to a point where it actually is rare enough for people to come back around and be like, oh well, I grew up on Switch One, now I want to buy games for it, right? So um, I don't know. I've not had a good track record of like flipping games on eBay for like $500. So I might be helping people get their retirement fund by they're going through the bins at retro game stores and taking advantage of all the good games I gave them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you, Quite. Like all the games I've been collecting, like it's not the flip. It really isn't. It's like it's just again for me, so I can come in here and just escape. You know what I mean? Life's hard sometimes, my friend. Just want to play some video games and be 12 years old all over again. That's all I want.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Drellish, for that question. Speaking of Foolish Fuji, hello, Matt Squared. I'm going to ask something on a more positive side. Knowing that one Matt is less inclined to buy a PS6 and the other will never ever spend their money on a Sony console. Damn. What games do you have in the backlog that you want to get to sooner rather than later? You're going to have all the time in the world to play them now. You got any games in
Which
your backlog or at top of the list?
which map between us is never buying a PS6? Which one? Surely it's not you. GTA 6. Eventually. Come on.
I mean, I'm just waiting for that PC version.
All right, all right. Which games I want? I mean, yeah, we have all the time in the world. So I guess what I'm excited to get into. I mean, we'll save it for the main episode. But yeah, right now I'm wrapping up, or at least I think I'm wrapping up My Friendly Neighborhood. Haven't decided if I'm
Okay.
going for the platinum yet, just because I was telling Quag before we hopped on and hit the record button, like the game is stressful. It's
Mm.
fun, but like I really need that ranch rag. Like it's very stressful. Yeah, dude, like it's not scary. Like I'm not getting spooked, but I'm just like, oh my God, if I don't save within the next 40 minutes and I die, I'm gonna be so mad. So I peaked at the platinum trophy and I do have to do a few more runs, but if I can carry over weapons or I can unlock, the ability to move faster, then I'll consider it. Anyways, the point is, after that, I'm very excited to go into the GameCube backlog. So I'm gonna play Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. It was something I've been
Ooh,
wanting
let's
for
go.
yeah, I've wanted it for such a long time. Finally bought it last year. It's been in my backlog for a year, and I haven't even touched it besides testing it. So I've put my foot down, saying it's summer vacation. Now's the time to really sink into Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. So I'm excited for
There
that
we
one.
go.
Have you played it before? Twin
Oh yeah,
Snakes?
I think I bought it pretty close to launch. Yeah, that was my
Now,
first Metal Gear game, and I really wanted to get more into it, but that was the only one on GameCube. So like when I wanted to try to play two or three, I was kind of SOL. So it was kind of disappointing that they kind of just stopped. I mean, maybe it didn't sell well, but yeah, I didn't jump back into Metal Gear until, of course, my favorite, Revengeance.
So did you play? So that means you did not play the OG Metal Gear Solid on PS1.
Correct.
So I'm very excited to play Twin Snakes because I've played MGS 1 through 4. 5 is in my backlog since, oh God, too long. Okay, that one I should be playing soon because it's been there for a long time. Anyways, I played MGS 1. I liked it quite a bit. And the reason why I picked up MGS Twin Snakes is number one, GameCube guy, and number two, my best friend's like, it's a good remake, but it's quite different. And I said, oh, do
Oh,
tell.
okay.
Obviously, beautiful graphics and
Hmm.
combat has been updated to MGS2, which is a significant improvement from MGS1. But he told me that, bless his heart, Kojima made them re-record the dialogue, and because it's a new graphical engine, like he redid some of the cutscenes, and he says it's cheese, like and like pretty like egregious sometimes, and
Okay.
he thought it was so confusing because MGS1, while if you played MGS1 now, PS1, you'll say this is camp. You really would. But at that time, anybody who's played it at launch, like you'd be like, this is groundbreaking stuff. Like this is like a serious espionage game with like full voice acting and like a little convoluted, but like an engrossing story. And then he said, like, he's like, he didn't play it yet, but he said he watched tons. He's a big MGS guy. He's watched all these YouTube videos, and everyone's like, the combat's there and the graphics are great, but like the line delivery is really cheese. They're so baffled by Kojima putting his foot down and saying like redo it and
Hmm.
do it in this
Okay.
mannerism, and just like the cutscenes, it's just like very very cheese. And he's like, it's almost laughable. So I'm very, and me, Mr. Resident Evil, I love ham and cheese, so that's why I'm excited to play Twin Snakes to see the differences, to see if I enjoy them, because yeah, MGS2 is significantly better. That's too bad you couldn't play
Yeah.
2 and 3. That is too bad. 4 is really good too. That one's stuck on the PS3, eh? Well,
Yeah.
you can sail the high
Yeah.
seas, I guess, but MGS4 is really good.
Well, actually, I know they just did do the remake for three, and I was interested in, maybe when that goes on sale, maybe doing that. And
Same here.
I don't know, like, because gosh, when did four come out? Like
PS3,
2004,
dude, like a
five?
launch title, I
So,
think, or something. Yeah,
I mean, technically, I think they do have the Metal Gear Collection Volume 2,
they do.
but
It's supposed to
I
be
don't know
on
if I
there.
want to play a 20-year-old game I've never played before. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
It'll be, yes, it is supposed to be on the collection. I'm curious to see if it runs well, just because of,
Yeah.
like, again, it was like PS3 exclusive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But Quag, like, I mean, we could do another 2 hours, but everyone's
Yeah.
backlogs. But what's the most exciting thing that you want to play next?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I definitely have a ton. Since Fulia was kind of mentioning, getting a PlayStation or not getting a PlayStation, I do actually have some PlayStation games on my backlog, so I will mention those. I am very excited to play Horizon Forbidden West and
Okay.
God of War Ragnarok. I'm going to
Ah,
do my
yes.
best to play both of them this year.
Did you
That's the
like
plan.
Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one?
I love Zero Dawn.
Really? Okay, so then listen, I liked Zero Dawn and I liked Forbidden West. I'm not the biggest fan. I
Okay.
liked it, but if you loved it, I would be surprised if you don't have a similar experience with Forbidden West. It's bigger,
Okay.
so that depending on if you like more options, then that's great. But again, vibes are there, story is good. You know me, Ragnarok was my game of the year last year, and you liked the first one, right?
Yeah, I was probably similar to what you said about Horizon. I probably preferred
Oh,
Horizon over God of War.
wait, then listen. Ragnarok is similar to 2018. There's a few changes that are better. So you can't go wrong with these Sony games. It's very exciting. Can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Fulia, for that question. My tainted brain. All right, getting late here again. It's getting late over here too, so ironic. Trying seriously not to get sidetracked. I'm so tired. Sleep is so damn precious and so difficult to get quality in any quantity. Amen, brother. Frontal brain, just put the goddamn phone down, you twat. Lizard brain, but the internet, Black Wyver, has posted another meme. Oh no, there. was a point to all this. I think I remember it. Got to get it down before I forget. Sony mentioned that they will allow other stores to sell games digitally. Do you think your local game shop, if you have one, will have empty boxes with codes inside, or will they just hand you a creased, coffee stained, scribbled note?
Um, I would my EB games. I mean, they're a chain, so I am curious to see what all the stores are going to be doing because I assume they can't have that much liberty in terms of those kind of policies. I would expect a big chain like EB Games, like if Sony's like, hey, no more physical games, but here's like an empty box. I'm assuming EB Games like give us a friggin' box so at least we can get some sales. However, my local retro game stores that also do sell modern games, I do know of at least one that already said like we are not carrying GTA 6. This is a big hit for us, absolutely, but like they just firmly believe in physical media, and they just said, unfortunately for us, we just can't support that kind of business model. So at least for them, uh, I mean, they might change their minds later. They're our business, but at least for now, they've said no to the digital code in a box. They firmly don't believe in it. And listen, maybe they do well enough with their retro games. That's why they can take a hit like that because maybe their primary business model isn't focusing on selling brand new games anyways because it's a smaller cut. But retro ones, they've already kind of said on their social media platforms I saw they said no.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that's a big gamble because it's like probably the number one game gonna be sold this year.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Hey, kudos props to them for standing on their principles,
Yeah,
right? So good for
yeah.
them.
Well, my tainted brain to answer the question. These game companies are trying to find anywhere they can to save some money. So you might be right. It might be that scribbled note, or who knows, maybe a used ranch rag that they might give that
Oh my
code on.
God. Quag.
Never know. Hey, you just never know. All right. Well, my tainted brain, thank you for that stream of consciousness and question. Always do appreciate it. All right. And didn't actually line it up this way, but my tainted brain mentioned Black Wyver, and now I got a Black Wyver question. Gaming is going to get even more expensive in 2028. In Australia, physical has always been cheaper than digital. Retailers discount the physical games. The removal of options such as to buy pre owned, trading in your games, also borrowing from local libraries, makes AAA games less accessible. I'm hoping Sony mimics Steam's digital store, allowing other sites to sell digital codes, better refund options, allow your friends to view and buy games on your wish list. What are changes would you like to see to the PlayStation Store? Digital is only inevitable.
So, Samit, I'm with you. I think the number one priority I need to see for the all digital future, well, number one is no, we don't want that all roguelike future. Just all
No,
digital's
definitely
coming.
not. Absolutely not. Keep
Yeah,
the roguelites games. Yep, we don't
keep them
want
away. Total
them.
trash. But yeah, the biggest one is I want other platforms to be able to sell the digital games. It does worry me quite a bit if it goes down that route of one store that sells games for the PlayStation 6. So again, I'm hoping like Quag mentioned, if Amazon or Best Buy can sell digital codes, whatever, then that incentivize some, I wouldn't say competition, but different marketplaces so that, it incentivizes them to do discounts and sales. But again, like I doubt it'll happen, but like another digital store that can sell PSN games would be phenomenal. Again, just provides more options is better for consumers. That's all I'm saying. Does Sony have a reason to do it for their end? Probably not, but we'll see. The refund option is atrocious. Like I'm not 100% sure in terms of like different countries' regulations. I believe there's been some movement in Europe in terms of the refund policy because I think in this I think here it's pretty whack. Like I think like if you buy it and install it, then it's too bad for you. And it's like if you want to get a refund, you'd have to, even if you didn't play it. I think if you just installed it, you gotta call them, explain to them what happened. You might get like a one-time pass. Like it's quite the ordeal. And I think
Wow.
I can't I could be wrong. But I think in Europe the government basically said you can't do that because it's not like they're returning something used, right? They haven't actually played it. And I know for it's Steam, is it you guys get 2 hours to play?
Yeah, it's 2 hours of play or 2 weeks from purchase, which I'll be honest, like, I don't know if I've ever refunded a game on Steam because, like, there are sometimes, like, summer sale, buy a game and I may not play it for 6 months. So if I didn't have a problem with it, then I might be SOL, right? Because you almost gotta make sure you test it right away to make sure you don't have that issue within 2 hours. So, a little better, but at the same time, it's not foolproof, too.
It's not. It's not. But PlayStation's is pretty out of whack with that.
That's pretty
The
bad. I didn't
social.
realize it was that strict.
It's so stupid, Quag. It's really dumb. And then yeah, I mean, 2026. Like, I seriously cannot gift a PlayStation game in 2026
It's
on
wild.
digital. Yeah, like it's we need more accessibility like that. But like I said, the biggest one that I'm hoping for the all digital future is that there's just still options and not just one store. Because if it's really one store, there's literally no reason to go on big discounts, right? Like, so here's the hoping. Like, I'm not sure what to expect from them.
Yeah, I think definitely the gifting of games. I think that's kind of crazy. Like, I think does Sony hate money? But really, would make me happy is that I know we mentioned earlier that the PlayStation 3 store is about to close down next year, but Sony, if you can go ahead and at least allow gifting on the PlayStation 3 store before it goes down, so that I can gift Ron a copy of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on there because we're not sure if I can do it on Xbox, but I'll get him that PS3 copy of that best Metal Gear game.
Was that a PS3 game? I thought it was a
Yeah,
PS4.
360 PS3. Yep.
Okay, but it is available on PS4. No, or is it stuck there?
Uh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I never looked into the spin-off games of MGS, but you've spoken highly of it. You have.
Love him. Love it. All right. Well, Black Wyver, thank you for that question. Kiku, and also is our last question. So Kiku asks, is Nagachaka going to be okay for this episode? Or will the discussion of the grim future of physical games cause him to have a heart attack mid-show? What's your backup plan for when the licensing agreement decides your game is no longer allowed to exist? I have a backlog of 500 plus games, most of them physical, so I think I'll be okay even if I never buy another game in the future once they go digital only.
I'm still going through the 5 stages of grief, Kiku. I think I'm almost nearing the acceptance after raging out yesterday. Yeah, it's disheartening, but again, like it was on the wall. Like, we all saw it coming. It just, like, as I mentioned before, I was surprised with when it's coming. But I knew it was coming, so at least it kind of softens the blow. In terms of Plan B, like, we'll see. Again, I mentioned before, it's not like I'm not saying that for sure I'm not buying a PS6 just because it's gonna be, $2,000 and all digital. I'm not saying never, because I mean, listen, the Capcom can just twist my arm and say, like, hey, Resident Evil 11 is only on PlayStation. You're really not gonna play it? It's like, well,
Mm.
I'm not gonna buy an iPad to play Resident Evil, so yeah, I guess I am. You can play Resident Evil 2 on your iPad. Like, it's not. I'm not trying to be funny here, but I'm not. I don't have those devices anyways. I'd rather just buy a PS6 at that point. So I'm not saying never ever, but like, as I mentioned, with the inevitable whatever it is, $1,500, $2,000 price tag, all digital, I'm less inclined to buy it right away. And then if I can't buy new games, what's Plan B? Yeah, my backlog is in the 2 digits. It's nowhere near 100. I think right now I'm at like 16 or something, but I'm not I'm not I'm not being dramatic here. Like, I actually really do enjoy replaying games. Like I said, like, if one of my fondest memories is playing Resident Evil 4 OG over and over and over again on the Wii. So I'm more than happy to go back and play these games again. And like I said, I have in my mind, maybe this counts as a backlog, maybe it doesn't. I have a list of games I've already played, but I want to go back and get the platinums for it, right? Resident Evil
Okay.
6 is trash, but I need the platinum trophy for the PS4 version. Haven't gotten the platinum trophies for Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0, Revelations 1 and 2. And that's those are the PS4 versions. Then I got the PS3 versions. Tears of the Kingdom. You might, Nintendo fans, if you don't hate me already, I rolled credits in 60 hours. Some of you might say you just did the tutorial in Tears of the Kingdom. I know people that have like 300 hours. I have people that have done so many quests that I've never even heard of. I'd be more than happy to go back and play the game at, full extent. I would be happy to go back and, you know, do different choices in different games, So I'm happy to go back and replay my stuff. And, I mentioned a few months ago, I got recently gotten to 3DS, so I got like a little bit of a backlog there. So yeah, I'll replay my games over and over and over again. More than happy to. Quag, your backlog's 400, so you're set. You are
I'm
good.
set. Yeah. But you mentioned Resident Evil 6. I think on the last episode I leaked that Resident Evil 6 is going to be a launch title for the PlayStation 6. So I know how into the platinums you are. So since Sony is not going to let you transfer that over to PlayStation 6, are you going to rebuy Resident Evil 6 on PlayStation 6 so you can get that platinum as well?
Well, like I said, Quag, if there's, I'm not saying never ever, but
Okay.
if they want to twist my arm,
Yep.
here's some old Resident Evil games ported over, or the new ones, and they're only PlayStation 6. It's like, well, guess I'm selling my kidney to buy PlayStation 6 because Capcom board member. I need them Resident Evil games, as many versions as I can, and the platinum versions. Even though RE6 is trash, like, yes, the answer is yes. Hey, I'm still waiting for a PS5 version. All right, just got the PS4 version. That's right, and PS3. So yeah, I'm not saying never, but it's just less inclined. And even with Nintendo, like, I mean, the Switch 2 is gonna last me a while, but eventually, like I said, I don't expect RAM prices to go down that significantly. So eventually, their hardware might be like $900 too, right? And again, the fact that they're selling Fire Emblem at $110, what's it going to be in 5 years? You tell me I'm going to have to pay like $150 for Luigi's Mansion 4? I love Luigi. I'm Team Luigi, but I might just have to hold out on Facebook Marketplace and then pay 90 or whatever it is. That's insane. But I just paying those day one prices is very hard, very hard pill to swallow. I got my backlog. I think everybody does. I think everyone's got Plan B, right? I don't think anybody's here that's like,
Yeah,
I don't have
I
a
think
backlog.
everyone has a backlog because there's too many games. But to Kiku's part of her question, the licensing agreement, I follow Warrior 64 and um, saw that like Cruise and Blast, which is Nintendo Switch One game,
Yep.
got delisted because of a licensing issue, and yeah, actually I have a physical copy of that, so
Oh,
screw licensing. I can still play it if I want to. I just got to make sure I keep it away from my daughter, so she doesn't lose that one too.
it is a concern, Kiku. Like I said, it can happen anytime, and it's just random. At the same time, we're all plugged into the video gaming news. Like, we don't see that many occurrences of a licensing issue. It happens. I'm not saying it's impossible. And there could be some, few gems that one of us hangs on to, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It would be absolutely horrible. The big IP, I'd be shocked if for some reason they can't lose those licenses. But that's just, listen, we spoke with. I don't want to say we because I'm gonna take me and the 10% of physical buyers. We weren't part of it, but 90%, right? We spoke loudly with our wallets. We were buying the games digitally. Like, no company in their minds could be like, let me keep spending all this time and effort just for the 10% people. Like, time's money, right? And it does take time to logistically print, produce, ship these games out, and all that stuff. Like, it's not worth it for them. So it sucks, Kiku, pouring one out for all of us physical media people. I mean, PlayStation doesn't see it that way, but for us, we're still team physical media forever.
Yep, team physical.
There it is.
All right. Well, Kiku, thank you for that question, and really thank you for all the questions. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up the show here. So, real Matt, where can people find you on the internet if you want them to?
You can find me on Blue Sky as Nagachaka. You can also find me in the Discord. And, if you're in the Greater Toronto area, you'll probably see me at retro game stores, hugging all the physical media people there as we're, you know, dealing with our grief over PlayStation 6.
Yeah, my condolences, Matt. My condolences. Well, only place you'll be able to find me is on the BFAM Discord, and Ron's not here to tell you otherwise. Um, you have just experienced Classified File 9 from the brothers from another mothership podcast. BFAM, y'all.
EFAM.